The gray winds continued to sweep across the cliffs of the alien outpost, but inside, the air felt heavier. The humans' words, delivered as compliments, had left a mark. Every officer, every leader, now felt the quiet weight of his observation. What was meant as praise felt like a challenge. What was meant as subtle warning now demanded attention. The day after the human left, Sella walked through the patrol corridors, her steps slow, thoughtful. She remembered the human's voice, calm and measured, and the way he had pointed out the small ridge on the eastern cliff. At the time, it had seemed like an innocent remark, almost flattering. But now, she realized it had been deliberate. He had shown them a weakness. Without making them feel attacked, she found Varys at the command center, analyzing patrol routes on a holographic display. "We should change our routines," Sella said quietly. The human. He saw things. Small things we never noticed. Varys glanced at her with a frown. "You mean as compliments?" They were warnings. Yes, I felt it. Every word had weight. But how do we act without looking weak? Sella shrugged. "We do not act like we are afraid. We act like we are improving." That is what he wanted. He showed us flaws so we could fix them. Not to humiliate us, but to teach. Varys's eyes narrowed. Teach. Strange word for a human, yet he may be right. Aliens began to adjust. Patrols were reassigned, sensors recalibrated, and communication protocols strengthened. Officers worked harder, thinking of the humans' calm words as both praise and caution. Meanwhile, the human had not left their world completely. Small human drones appeared in remote regions, mapping terrain, scanning patrol patterns, and collecting environmental data. No threat was present. Observation. Yet aliens noticed the drone's presence, and each time they remembered his words. Zorlok gathered his leaders for a meeting. The human's influence is subtle, but clear. Every movement, every adjustment we make, it reminds us of him. I do not like it. Varys leaned forward. He is teaching us to see ourselves differently, to see our flaws, our officers, our defenses. He does not touch them directly, but he makes us notice. That is clever. Too clever, perhaps. Stella spoke next. I do not think he is here to harm us. Humans, they act differently. Their methods are strange but effective. The warnings in his compliments were meant to guide, not destroy. Zorlak's tentacles twitched. Guidance or not, we cannot ignore it. The subtlety makes it dangerous. If we underestimate him, or humans in general, we could fail when it matters most. Over the next week, small incidents began to occur that seemed almost coincidental. A supply shuttle delayed by a minor sensor glitch. A patrol misdirected by a shadow of rock that blocked a camera. An automated gate that failed to close on time. Each time the officers remembered the humans' compliments the ridge on the east cliff, the cleverness of their patrols, the precision of the control panels. Each small flaw had already been highlighted. Quietly, Sella found herself thinking about the human constantly. She remembered his smile, calm and gentle, yet full of meaning. She began to notice patterns in her own routines that were vulnerable. He is teaching us, she whispered to a fellow officer. Every compliment hides something important. Every kind word is also a warning. The fellow officer shook his head. I do not like it. Humans should be far away. But he is right. We must adapt. We cannot ignore him. Meanwhile, the human was observing from orbit. He watched the adjustments, the changes in patrols, the recalibration of defenses. He noted every improvement, every correction, and sent small signals to guide them further like whispers in the wind that the aliens could not fully interpret. A week later, a minor emergency occurred. A sudden storm rolled in from the cliffs, sweeping dust and debris into the outpost. Sensors struggled to detect small landslides, and patrols were confused. Yet the officers, guided by the lessons hidden in the humans' compliments, were ready. They adjusted quickly. The East Cliff Ridge was reinforced. Patrols were rerouted. Communication lines stayed clear. By the time the storm passed, the outpost had suffered no damage. Zorlok stood at the top of the central tower. watching the cleared sky. "They are learning," he said to Varys. "Not from us. From him, a human, and I do not like it." Varys nodded. "Yet we cannot deny it. The outpost is stronger because of him. Because of his strange method. A compliment. That is also a warning. I have never seen such strategy before." Sela approached them, her eyes bright with understanding. "It works. We notice things we never saw before. Patrols are better. Sensors are better. Officers. Even I am more aware. All because he showed us where we could fail, without making us feel attacked." Zorlak's tentacles twitched. "Yes, it is effective. And dangerous. Humans are not only strong, they are subtle. We cannot anticipate them easily. Their intelligence is hidden in ordinary words, ordinary actions." The human's voice returned through a secure channel, calm and soft. "I am pleased you adapt. You are clever, and with every improvement, you reduce the chance of disaster. Keep observing. Keep learning. Small attention to detail can prevent large mistakes." Varys frowned. He speaks kindly. Yet it feels like he could destroy us without moving a finger. That is the point. He does not need to fight. The warning is in the compliment. He shows us flaws and gives us the chance to fix them. He makes us stronger. That is why humans are dangerous, because they think ahead, not just react. Days passed, and the outpost continued to adjust. The human's subtle presence was like a shadow over their work, a quiet observer that made them second-guess every decision. Patrols were faster, sensors were sharper, and officers were more alert. Each adjustment felt like a puzzle piece the human had placed carefully, testing them to see if they could notice and act. Sela could not stop thinking about him. His calm demeanor, the way he spoke, the deliberate choice of words, it was unlike any alien she had known. He did not command. He did not demand. Yet his influence was everywhere. She whispered to herself, a compliment can hide a warning. And humans, they are masters of this. Then, one night, a minor security alert sounded. A rogue drone, possibly from an unknown faction, had approached the outpost. Sensors caught it late, and patrols scrambled to intercept. Yet the officers were prepared. They moved with precision, coordinating quickly, and the rogue drone was neutralized with minimal disruption. Zorlak watched from the command tower, arms crossed. The human's influence is evident. Our response was faster. Our actions were smarter, and yet it feels like he is still in control, even from afar, Varys added. He does not touch us directly, yet he guides us. Every compliment he gave pointed to something important. Every praise had hidden meaning. We must continue to learn from him, whether we like it or not. Sela, standing beside them, nodded. We have grown because of him. We are stronger, smarter, and more aware. Humans do not always fight with force, they fight with minds. And today, we learned that the hard way. The winds outside howled again, as if carrying the human's calm voice through the cliffs. Each alien officer felt it in their chest. Quiet, lingering awareness that they had been tested. Not by force, not by weapons, but by intelligence, subtlety, and careful observation. And the most important lesson remained clear. The humans' compliments were never innocent. They were warnings. Hidden, gentle, polite, but warnings all the same. Somewhere above. In orbit, the human watched the outpost one last time, before leaving the planet's gravity. His work here was not complete. There would be more observations, more subtle tests, more lessons. But for now, he knew the aliens had noticed. They had adjusted. They had learned. And the aliens, though they did not fully understand it, had begun to see humans in a new light. No longer merely unpredictable creatures, humans were strategists, teachers, and warriors all at once. And the quiet power of a compliment could be more dangerous than a weapon in the wrong hands, or protective in the right ones, as the human ship disappeared into the blackness of space. Sela whispered to herself again, we have seen only a part of what humans can do. But even this part, it is enough to make us stronger and cautious. Very cautious. The outpost was calm now, yet every officer knew the truth. Humans were coming, not to fight directly, but to teach. And sometimes, teaching could be the most powerful warning of all. The alien outpost was unusually quiet that morning. Officers moved through the corridors with focused steps, checking systems, recalibrating sensors, and reviewing patrol routes. Sela felt a strange tension in the air, as if something was about to happen. She remembered the human's calm voice, his words that hid warnings and compliments, and wondered if this day would finally prove their meaning. In the control center, Zorlok studied the holographic displays of the surrounding cliffs. "Something does not feel right," he said. "All systems show normal readings, but my instincts tell me otherwise." Varys glanced at him. "Do you mean the human again? You think he has left, but his influence lingers." Zorlak's tentacles twitched. "Yes, he planted ideas, lessons, subtle warnings. We follow them, but instinct warns me that we will need them today." Suddenly, the alarm system blared. Red lights flashed across the walls. A distant patrol had detected movement near the eastern ridge, the very spot the human had complimented and subtly warned about weeks ago. Sela's heart raced. She rushed to the central console. "Reports indicate an unauthorized drone approach. It is moving fast. Sensors are partially blocked by shadows from the ridge." Zorlak's eyes narrowed. "The human warned us. The ridge blocks sensors slightly. Did anyone correct for this?" Varys shook her head. "We improved patrols, but the shadows remain. It seems the warning was meant for this exact situation." The outpost sprang into action. Officers moved quickly, adjusting sensor angles, recalculating patrol paths, and preparing interception teams. The rogue drone approached at high speed, scanning for weaknesses. If it reached the command center, it could disrupt communications or trigger a chain reaction that would harm the outpost. Sela led one of the patrol teams. She thought of the human's words. A compliment can hide a warning. Every small detail matters. Her mind raced as she guided her team along the eastern ridge. Every sensor reading, every shadow, every step mattered. The drone descended near the ridge, attempting to slip past the recalibrated sensors. Officers were ready. Lasers and energy nets deployed just in time, slowing it down. Yet the drone continued its approach, calibrating itself faster than expected. Zorlok stood in the command center, watching the holographic displays. "We underestimated the approach speed. The human's warning, it is true. Small flaws can cause big danger." Varys clenched her claws. "Then we rely on the lessons he gave us. Observe the weaknesses," he pointed out, "and act faster than the machine thinks we can." Sela's team moved with precision. They used the shadows from the ridge to guide the drone into a controlled trap. It zigzagged, trying to escape detection, but the officers anticipated each movement. Sela's mind replayed the human's calm words about observation and attention to detail. Each compliment he had given them now acted as a map, showing them where to focus. The rogue drone finally entered the trap. Energy nets tightened, sensors locked, and the drone was immobilized. Officers cheered quietly, but Sela stayed focused, scanning for any secondary threats. Zorlok finally exhaled. The human was right. Every small flaw mattered. We survived this because we noticed what we would have missed otherwise. The compliments. The warnings. They saved us. Varys nodded. "I doubted him at first, but his intelligence is remarkable. He does not fight with weapons. He fights with awareness and understanding, and we are stronger because of it." Sela felt a mixture of pride and unease. She had learned to see flaws in their systems before the human had left. Now, she realized that noticing them in time was what truly mattered. She whispered to herself the human did not lie. The warnings were real, and we almost ignored them. Hours later, the aliens gathered to debrief. Zorlok addressed the leaders. "Today proved something important. Subtle observations can be more powerful than force. A human came here, and without attacking, without threatening, he prepared us for a real danger. He gave compliments that were warnings. He taught us to see weaknesses before they become disasters. Sella raised a question. But why does he do this? Why not simply tell us what to fix? Varys replied, because humans understand that guidance is most effective when it is subtle. If they just gave instructions, we might resent them. Instead, they show us flaws through kindness, through praise, and we act willingly. It is a strategy we cannot fully predict. Zorlak's tentacles moved slowly, as if thinking. That is why humans are dangerous and valuable at the same time. They act quietly, yet influence events profoundly. They can teach without commanding, warn without threatening, and guide without showing force. Today we learn this lesson firsthand. Meanwhile, Sella could not stop thinking about the human. She remembered the ridge, the shadows, the precise timing. Every compliment he had given now made sense. He saw our weaknesses before we did. He prepared us for what could have been disaster. She realized that humans did not fight like aliens. They fought with knowledge, with foresight, and with subtle influence. As the day turned to evening, the outpost slowly returned to normal. Officers repaired minor damage from the rogue drone, double-checked sensor arrays, and recalibrated patrol schedules. Yet, there was a new energy in the air, a mixture of caution and respect. The aliens now knew that humans were clever, unpredictable, and always thinking several steps ahead. In her quarters, Sella studied the logs of the day's events. She replayed the human's words in her mind. A compliment can hide a warning. Small attention to detail can prevent large mistakes. Observe carefully and remember my words. Each phrase felt like a puzzle she was just beginning to solve. Varys joined her quietly. I think he wanted us to experience this ourselves. The rogue drone. It was a test, and we passed it. But only because we remembered his words. Only because we acted on his subtle warnings. Sella nodded. It is more than a lesson. It is proof. Humans think differently. They do not rely on brute force. They rely on perception, observation, and subtle influence. And when they act, they shape events without others realizing it. The next day, the human ship appeared again in orbit, scanning the outpost. Zorlak noticed it on the holographic display. He watches still. Perhaps he will offer more guidance, or perhaps he is satisfied with our improvement, Varys responded. Humans always watch. They learn, they observe, and they act only when necessary. But the lesson today, it will not be forgotten. Sella smiled faintly. I think we understand now. His compliments were never simple. They were carefully designed. Each one pointed out a risk, a weakness, a chance to improve. And because he presented it kindly, we listened. Zorlak's tentacles twitched slowly. Yes, we listened, and we survived. That is the power of humans. Not in weapons, not in numbers, but in minds. Today proves it, and we must remember it always. As the sun set over the gray cliffs, Sella walked the eastern ridge. She remembered the rogue drone, the shadows, the careful steps that had saved the outpost. She thought of the human's calm voice, his quiet warnings wrapped in compliments. He is clever, she thought. Too clever to underestimate. And we have only begun to learn from him. The outpost, once tense and rigid, now felt sharper, more alert. Every officer moved with careful awareness. Every sensor was checked, every patrol adjusted. The human's influence had changed the way they operated, not by force, not by threat, but by subtle guidance and thoughtful observation. And somewhere above, in the quiet of space, the human watched the planet. He had accomplished what he intended. The aliens had noticed their vulnerabilities, acted upon them, and grown stronger because of his warnings. He gave one final smile before his ship disappeared into the black void. Leaving the aliens to reflect on what had occurred, the lesson was clear. A human's compliment was never just praise. It could be a tool, a map, a warning. And when a human chose to guide quietly, the results could be more powerful than any weapon. Sella, looking out at the cliffs and the distant horizon, whispered softly, "We have been taught by a human, and we will never forget it." For the first time, the outpost felt truly prepared. Not because of walls or weapons, but because of knowledge and the quiet power of observation. And somewhere deep inside, every officer now understood that humans were not to be underestimated. Not in battle, not in strategy, and certainly not in subtlety. The alien outpost had changed since the humans' first visit. Officers moved faster, patrols were sharper, and sensor arrays were checked constantly. Every corner of the outpost now reflected lessons subtly taught by someone who had never drawn a weapon in anger. Yet, there was still room to grow. The human intended to guide them further. Sella stood near the eastern ridge, examining the patrol maps. Even after the rogue drone incident, she found small details that could still be improved. She remembered the human's voice, calm and precise, and how his compliments always carried hidden meaning. A soft hum interrupted her thoughts. She looked up toward the sky. A human transport hovered above the outpost, landing near the main entrance. Officers exchanged nervous glances. This time the human had returned not as a distant observer, but to interact directly. Zorlok and Varys arrived in the central chamber to meet him. The human stepped down from the transport, smiling with quiet confidence. "Greetings," he said. "I see that your improvements are effective. The rogue drone incident showed me that you learned quickly." Zorlak's tentacles twitched in cautious approval. "You are correct. Your warnings disguised as compliments prepared us, but we still do not understand fully why you teach in such a manner." The human nodded. Humans value observation. We learn by noticing details, by understanding weaknesses before they become problems. Sometimes guidance is most effective when it encourages the observer to think for themselves rather than follow instructions blindly. Varys's eyes narrowed. "So, you teach by complimenting flaws? That is unusual," he smiled. "Perhaps unusual to you, but it works. A human compliment can highlight a problem without causing resentment. It encourages attention to detail, and it allows growth without confrontation." Sella stepped forward. "We understand it now. Your compliments are warnings. They are lessons hidden in kindness." The human inclined his head. "Exactly. And now I will help more directly. There are areas where subtle guidance is enough, and areas where direct action is necessary." He led the alien leaders to the eastern sensor tower. "This tower is effective, yes," he said, "but the shadows near the ridge still block small movements. I suggest adding mobile sensor units that can reposition themselves in real time. You already know the weak spots. Now you can cover them effectively." Zorlok examined the tower. "We thought we had covered everything, yet you see gaps we missed." The human's smile was calm. "Gaps exist in every system. Humans notice them because we see patterns others miss. With small adjustments, these gaps become strengths." Sella followed him as he walked along the ridge. He pointed to certain angles, low walls, and sensor placements. Each time he praised the current work first. "This wall is strong, and the patrols are efficient. Very clever. Yet here, a small adjustment could prevent infiltration entirely." Varys frowned, then realized the pattern. Every compliment points out exactly what to improve. We act willingly because you acknowledge what we did correctly and then guide us toward better results. Yes, the human replied. Humans respond best to encouragement. Force is useful, yes, but understanding builds lasting strength. You already survived the rogue drone because you noticed flaws before it reached you. Now, we improve together. For hours, the human worked with the alien officers. He suggested changes in patrol patterns, recommended minor adjustments to sensor angles, and helped design mobile units that could detect intruders quickly. Every instruction was paired with praise for their existing systems. "This sensor is clever," he said at one point, "and your officers maintain it well. With this minor adjustment, it can detect movement even in shadows. It is a small change, but it matters." Sella felt a thrill of understanding. The human's approach was more than clever. It was almost teaching them to think like humans. "We learn differently than you," she whispered to herself. "We rely on rules and strength. You think ahead, anticipate, and guide quietly." By late afternoon, the eastern ridge was stronger than ever. Patrols moved smoothly, sensors covered every angle, and officers felt confident in their adjustments. Yet beneath the satisfaction, There was a quiet awareness. They had learned more than just procedures. They had learned a way to think strategically. Zorlak observed the improvements and nodded slowly. We act differently now. Not just because of tools or patrols, but because of insight. Your influence shapes our decisions, even when subtle. The human smiled. That is the goal. Knowledge is the most powerful tool, and insight is the sharpest weapon. Today you learn to use both. Remember this, and you will handle future challenges more effectively. Sela turned to him, curiosity in her eyes. Do humans always teach like this? Without force? Without direct order? He nodded. Not always. But when teaching allies or when observing potential threats, this method is effective. It encourages awareness, fosters growth, and prevents mistakes before they happen. A compliment can guide more than a command ever could. Varys's tone was thoughtful. Your methods are difficult to anticipate. We respect your intelligence, but it is unsettling. We cannot rely on force to understand humans. We must observe, think, and adapt constantly. The human's eyes were calm. Exactly. That is why humans are unpredictable. We act thoughtfully, not impulsively, and we use subtle influence to achieve results without confrontation. Sela realized something important. Your warnings were never meant to scare us. They were meant to prepare us. And by doing so, you taught us how to think differently, how to anticipate, how to notice, how to improve ourselves. The human nodded. You understand now? Today was not just about protecting the outpost. It was about strengthening your minds as much as your defenses. Observing, thinking, adapting, these are human strengths, and they are yours to adopt as well. As night fell, the human prepared to leave. He walked to the command center one last time. You have done well, he said. Continue to improve, continue to observe, and continue to learn. Every compliment can hide a lesson. Every warning can be delivered kindly. That is the way of humans. Zorlak's tentacles twitched slowly. We will remember. Your lessons, your warnings are now part of our strategy. We are stronger because of you. Sela stepped forward. Thank you. Not just for the guidance, but for showing us a new way to think. I will never forget it. The human inclined his head. Good. Knowledge is a gift, but only when applied. Remember, every small detail can prevent disaster. You have seen that today. He stepped onto his transport, which hummed softly as it lifted off. Officers watched in silence, reflecting on the day's lessons. The outpost was safer, yes, but more importantly, the aliens had learned to see like humans, to notice details, to anticipate challenges, and to understand the power of subtle influence. Sela lingered near the eastern ridge, gazing at the stars where the human had disappeared. She realized that humans were unlike any species they had encountered, not just in strength, not just in technology, but in thought. They could guide, warn, and teach without force. They could change the outcome of events with observation alone. Varys joined her. He is dangerous, she said softly, but in a way that makes us stronger. I respect him. And I fear what humans could do if they chose to act differently. Sela nodded. We have learned today that a compliment can hide a warning, that attention to detail can prevent disaster, and that humans, they think in ways we cannot fully predict. That is their power. Zorlak looked out from the command tower at the cliffs below. Today, we survived not because of weapons or numbers, but because of insight, because we listened. Because we acted wisely, the human showed us a different path, one we must continue to follow. The winds of the gray cliffs howled, carrying the quiet memory of the human's calm voice. His lessons had been delivered subtly, gently, almost invisibly. Yet they had left a lasting mark on the outpost, its officers, and its leaders. Sela whispered to herself one last time. We have been guided by a human. We have been warned without knowing it. And we are stronger because of it. And somewhere far above, the human watched, calm and observant. He did not intervene directly, but his influence had shaped the outpost. He had taught them to see, to anticipate, and to act. And in doing so, he had shown the true power of a compliment hand, the quiet strength of a warning delivered with kindness. The gray cliffs of the alien outpost stood silently under the dim light of the planet's sun. Officers moved through the corridors, checking systems and preparing for another routine day. Yet, deep inside, Sela could feel a tension she had not felt before. Something told her that today would not be routine. The warning had always been subtle. The human's compliments, his careful observations, his hidden lessons all had prepared them for small incidents. But today, the test was greater. In the command center, Zorlok studied the sensors. "There is unusual activity on the eastern ridge," he said. "Not a drone. Something larger, fast-moving. We must act quickly." Varys's claws tapped the table. "Could it be a hostile faction? We have monitored the area constantly. How could they approach undetected?" Sela stepped forward. "We have improved our systems because of the human. He warned us about the ridge, the shadows, the weak points. I think we are ready. If we act carefully, we can handle this." Zorlok nodded slowly. "Very well. Let us proceed with caution and precision." Outside, a massive machine approached the outpost. It was unlike any technology the aliens had seen before, sleek, fast, and intelligent. Sensors detected its movements, but the shadows on the eastern ridge made prediction difficult. Every officer remembered the human's words: "Observe carefully. Every detail matters." Sela led a team to the ridge. They moved swiftly, checking sensor feeds, adjusting patrols, and scanning for weaknesses. The massive machine advanced, analyzing the outpost, testing defenses, probing for vulnerabilities. It moved methodically like a predator. Zorlok watched the command displays. "Focus on the shadows. The east ridge is critical. Remember what the human said?" Sela adjusted the sensors in real time. She remembered the human's subtle advice, how to turn weaknesses into advantages. Every compliment he had given now acted as guidance. Every hidden warning was a blueprint for survival. The massive machine approached the ridge, and for a moment it seemed unstoppable. Its movements were too fast, too precise, but the aliens had prepared. Sensors detected the tiniest deviations. Patrols anticipated its maneuvers, and energy nets were in place at critical points. Sela whispered to her team, "Remember the lessons. Every detail matters. Move carefully. Act together." The first attack came suddenly. The machine fired a concentrated energy pulse aiming for a control tower. Officers dodged, activated shields, and rerouted power to prevent system failure. Yet, the outpost remained intact. Zorlok's eyes narrowed. The human's lessons. They are what keep us alive. Every adjustment, he suggested, every compliment he gave hiding a warning. It prepared us for this moment. Varys activated mobile sensor units on the ridge. Observe, anticipate, act. That is what he taught us. Sela coordinated the interception. Use the shadows against it. Force it into the trap. Remember its patterns. The massive machine moved with surprising intelligence. It tested the outpost, probing each angle. Every officer acted with precision, guided not by fear, but by awareness. They noticed weaknesses the machine tried to exploit, adjusted instantly, and turned the attacks into opportunities. Suddenly, a secondary threat appeared, a smaller, agile drone attempting to bypass sensors through the north perimeter. Sela's team adjusted instantly, intercepting it before it could reach vital systems. She thought of the human's words, "Small details prevent disaster." Every compliment he had given about sensors, patrols, and shadows now proved essential. Hours passed in tense activity. The massive machine advanced again and again, but the outpost adapted with each move. Officers coordinated seamlessly, sensors recalibrated in real time, and patrols anticipated attacks. Finally, the machine paused. It seemed to analyze the situation, calculating its next move. Sela saw an opening. "Focus all energy nets here. Force it to the trap we prepared along the ridge." The team followed her instructions. The machine hesitated, then stepped into the trap. Energy nets immobilized it, Sensors locked, and officers secured it. The rogue drone was neutralized, and the massive machine, though formidable, could not escape. Zorlok exhaled slowly. We survived. Not because of weapons, not because of brute force, but because of foresight, preparation, and awareness. The human was right. Every compliment, every warning, every subtle lesson mattered. Varys's eyes softened with respect. He guided us without demanding obedience. He showed us what to notice, and we acted. That is intelligence beyond measure. That is human strategy. Sela walked along the ridge, surveying the captured machine. He taught us to see clearly, to anticipate, to act wisely, to notice what others miss. The human's warnings were never threats. They were preparation for moments like this. Zorlok turned to her. You understand now. Not all strength comes from weapons. Some strength comes from knowledge, from observation, from subtle guidance. And humans, they wield this strength like no other. Sela nodded. Yes, today proved it. Their warnings, their compliments, they can save lives, shape events, and prepare allies in ways we never imagined, Varys added. We cannot underestimate humans again. They fight differently. They teach differently. And they change outcomes without ever showing force directly. That is power we must respect. As the dust settled, Sela returned to the command center. Officers began repairing minor damage, checking systems, and recalibrating sensors. Yet, there was a renewed confidence in the outpost. They had faced a threat far beyond their previous experience, and survived. Not just survived, but learned. Zorlok addressed the officers. Remember today. Remember the lessons hidden in compliments, the warnings delivered subtly. Observe, anticipate, act wisely. Humans think ahead, and we must follow their example in our own way. Sela smiled quietly. She thought of the human, his calm presence, his deliberate words. His compliments were lessons. His observations were warnings. And his guidance had prepared them for the impossible. Later, she stood on the eastern ridge looking at the captured machine. The cliffs were calm again, the wind sweeping over the rocks. She whispered softly, we were guided by a human. We were warned without fear, taught without force, and because of that, we survived. Varys joined her. He will not always be here, but his lessons remain. We now see the importance of observation, strategy, and subtle guidance. Today, we became stronger because of him. Replin? Yes. We survived because we listened, because we acted, because we understood. Humans do not fight the way we expect. They fight with insight, with preparation, with knowledge. That is their strength. Sela thought of the weeks since the human first arrived, the compliments, the subtle warnings, the guidance disguised as praise. Each lesson had led to this moment. The rogue drone, the massive machine, the shadows of the ridge, all had been anticipated. All had been prepared for, because the human had taught them to see differently. As night fell, the outpost was calm. Officers stood alert but confident. The human's influence was everywhere, not as a presence, but as understanding. Every sensor adjustment, every patrol route, every small improvement traced back to his lessons. Sela whispered one last time. The human's compliment was never innocent. It was a warning, a lesson, a guide. And it saved us today. Above the cliffs, the stars shone bright. Somewhere in space, the human observed quietly, knowing his work here was complete for now. The aliens had grown stronger, wiser, and more aware. Not because of force, not because of threat, but because of knowledge, subtle guidance, and the quiet power of a well-placed compliment. Zorlok looked at the horizon and nodded. Humans are unlike any species we have known. Their strength is not just in what they can do, but in how they think. And we have learned from them. Today, that knowledge saved our lives. Sella smiled softly. We will remember. We will continue to watch, to learn, and to improve. And we will never forget that a simple compliment can be more dangerous or more protective than any weapon. The outpost stood stronger than ever. The cliffs, the sensors, the patrols, they all reflected the lessons of the human who had come quietly, observed carefully, and left warnings hidden in praise. And in that quiet strength, the aliens finally understood the true power of humans, not just as unpredictable creatures, but as teachers, strategists, and guardians, and somewhere far above, the humans' calm presence remained unseen but felt, leaving behind a legacy of insight, preparation, and the understanding that sometimes the greatest power lies not in force, but in observation, guidance, and a warning wrapped in a compliment. The small human research station hung in the void like a quiet jewel. Its metal walls glinted under the distant sun of a young star, and the soft hum of machinery echoed through every corridor. It was not a large place, only a few decks, a handful, of labs and living quarters that felt cramped but functional. Yet it was perfect for those who wanted to escape the eyes of the galaxy, to hide from politics, and to observe strange worlds. On this quiet morning, station's main docking bay shone with unusual activity. Sleek spacecraft approached, its surface reflecting light in waves of silver and blue. The crew inside worked calmly, performing checks and confirming the station's security protocols. But the station had no idea who their visitor really was. The alien princess stepped out first. She was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly in the station's artificial lights. Her eyes were a deep, luminous green, and her long hair moved as though it had a life of its own. She had been trained to appear calm and unremarkable, yet everything about her carried authority. Every gesture, every glance, spoke of her hidden power and noble birth. She did not speak to anyone immediately. Instead, she moved with quiet precision, scanning the room as if she were calculating risks and opportunities in each step. The humans watched her with polite curiosity, unaware that this visitor carried secrets that could shake worlds if revealed. Among the humans, one stood apart. He was the station's engineer and explorer man who had traveled farther than most humans dared. He had seen strange planets, alien life, and dangers that others only read about in reports. Yet he had never met anyone like her. He noticed subtle things, the way she paused near certain equipment, the faint glow under her skin that no human had or could naturally produce. He followed her quietly, pretending to attend to routine maintenance in the hallways. His eyes never left her form as she moved through the station, taking in every corridor and doorway. She believed herself alone, but she was not. The human was watching, learning, and understanding. The princess finally reached a restricted area. This was a section few visitors were allowed. The signs warned that only authorized personnel could enter, but she bypassed them with ease, her key codes and permissions automatically overriding the locks. She moved as though she had been here before, her confidence showing no hesitation. The human stopped a few meters away, pretending to check a power panel. His mind raced with questions. Why would a high-ranking alien princess enter a restricted human section without alerting anyone? What was she looking for? And most importantly, what secret was she hiding? She reached a console at the center of the room. Her fingers hovered over the controls, her expression thoughtful. She input sequences that were not human, yet she did it effortlessly, as though the interface spoke to her in a language only she understood. The monitor flickered, and data poured out that made even the seasoned human pause. He was not surprised, only impressed. This princess was not just noble, she was brilliant. For hours she worked quietly, unaware of his presence. She examined samples, ran scans, and compared results. Every action seemed deliberate, She was searching for something specific, something she had hidden long before leaving her homeworld. Meanwhile, the human continued to observe. He recognized the patterns in her work. He understood the technology she used. Slowly, the pieces began to form a picture in his mind. She was not just a visitor. She was someone carrying knowledge that could alter the balance of power in her galaxy. A soft noise made her pause. She looked around, her sharp green eyes scanning every corner. Nothing. She sighed softly and continued her work. She was careful, trained to hide her presence even when others were near. She believed her secret was safe, as it had always been. The human took a quiet step closer. He could see the faint energy signature beneath her skin, glowing softly like a pulse. Only her species could produce this. He realized then that the stories he had heard about rare alien abilities were true, and he was witnessing one firsthand. Despite the danger, he admired her courage. She was alone in an unknown place, handling technology she had never shared with others. Her movements were precise, her focus absolute. Even without speaking, she commanded attention. She moved to another console and input a new sequence. The lights on the machine flickered, and a soft hum filled the room. He noted that the device responded not to touch, but to her energy signature. This confirmed what he suspected. Her species had abilities that humans could only dream of, abilities that could manipulate technology in ways humans could not. Yet she remained unaware that she was being observed. She had relied on stealth, secrecy, and her natural abilities to avoid detection, but the human had learned patience long ago. He had observed, waited, and studied without interfering. He did not intend to confront her yet, not until he fully understood the implications of her presence. Time passed, and the station's routine continued around them. Other humans moved in the hallways, performing tasks and checking logs. They saw her as just another alien visitor, polite and quiet, yet impressive in appearance. They had no idea what she was doing in restricted areas. The princess finally stopped, her work completed for now. She stepped back from the console and allowed herself a small sigh of relief. Everything seemed normal. The data she had gathered was intact, and no one had seen her do anything unusual. She was confident that her secret remained hidden. The human remained silent. He had learned enough to know that her secret was dangerous if revealed, but also that it could be incredible if used wisely. He admired her intelligence, her careful planning, and her courage. He also knew that she did not fully understand humans yet, and that was both a risk and an opportunity. For a moment, they were both still, sharing the same space without words. The station hummed around them, a quiet reminder that they were in a place far from their home worlds, surrounded by unknown challenges and possibilities. Then, without warning, a small alarm flickered on the far side of the room. A minor malfunction in the station's systems triggered it. Nothing dangerous, but enough to break the quiet. The princess's eyes narrowed. She moved quickly to assess the situation, showing skill and decisiveness that impressed the human even more. He stepped slightly closer, still hidden in the shadows. He did not interfere, but he observed every move, noting her strategies and techniques. She worked efficiently, correcting the minor error and restoring the system. 8. She moved with the ease of someone used to responsibility, someone trained to handle crises calmly. Once the alarm ceased, she straightened and looked around. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Her green gaze flickered with curiosity, though she did not speak. The human's presence was still unconfirmed to her, but he knew that she had sensed something, however faint. She turned and began to leave the restricted area, her steps confident and unhurried. The human followed, careful to remain unseen. He wondered what her next move would be. She had already proven her skill and intelligence, but the true depth of her abilities remained hidden. As she disappeared down a hallway, the human allowed himself a small smile. He had never encountered anyone like her. She carried not just a secret, but a strength, intelligence, and courage that few beings in the galaxy could match. He knew that learning her secret fully would require patience, observation, and perhaps trust, but he was willing to take the risk. Outside, The station continued its quiet routine. Machines hummed, lights flickered, and distant stars shone through observation windows. No one else suspected the events unfolding within the restricted areas, and for now, the princess's secret remained safe. Yet even in that quiet, the humans sensed a shift. Something about her presence felt larger than the station, larger than the moment. It was as if the galaxy itself had paused, waiting to see what would happen next. He knew that soon he would have to speak, and when he did, nothing would be the same again. For now, he waited, and in that waiting, he learned. He observed, he prepared. Because secrets like hers were never fully hidden, and knowledge once gained could change everything.